before we wrap things up, let's get to something that everyone's talking about today. As we are recording, Tony Khan did a media call for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view this weekend, the one we've reviewed or previewed earlier in the show, the one that is days away, that we haven't heard too much about. You didn't even know the card, and neither did I, to be honest, before we went through it. So we have some audio of Tony, and obviously, even though this is a Ring of Honor call, the big topic ends up being William Regal. And again, this was, as we were recording the earlier portions of the show, this was happening, so we now have the audio here to play for the show. Do you have anything to say?
Well, no, I was listening to your dissertation there, and I wandered off into La La Land. But yeah, you have encapsulated, I think, very succinctly and clearly exactly what we've got going on here and what we're about to listen to Tony Khan.
And this is over an hour, so we're not going to play all of this. So we're going to play some of it.
We're not.
If there's anything else big that we've missed, maybe we'll come back on the Experience or the Drive-Thru next week with it. But let's start. Let's just hear it as it happens. Let's go to the audio of the Tony Khan media call.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's media briefing with Tony Khan. Just a few quick items before we get started. Please make sure your phone is unmuted. This allows us to open your line to ask a question. So, if you'd like to ask a question, please unmute your microphones now. Once you've asked your question,
Lily Tomlin.
we will mute your line to avoid any background noise during the response.
One ringy
To
dingy.
indicate that you'd like to ask a question, please click the hand icon on the go-to dashboard. You can also type a question in at any time in the question section on the dashboard. Today's session will last approximately 55 minutes.
It's like a test.
And we will make every
I feel
attempt.
like I'm taking the SATs.
The dashboard, is everybody sitting in their car?
As always, please note that no live streaming or broadcasting of this call is permitted.
We're on a delay.
We will be sharing an audio recording of the session afterwards. I'll now turn it over to our moderator, Jim.
Me? What? How did I get involved with this?
I'm so happy to hear you're back involved with AEW. What do you have to say about this, Mr. Moderator?
Well, I'm the soul of moderation. If you look up moderation in the dictionary, you get a picture of me. But no, is there who else is named, who is Jim there? Jim's the moderator and Bill's on Gorilla. We don't know who the fuck's him.
Other than the Von Erichs, who gets introduced just by first name? Here is Kevin. Here is Jim. Oh my God, of course, it's Jim.
All right, well, he's going to moderate this thing, right?
Well, here's our moderator, Jim.
Thanks, Robin. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this special call with Tony Khan to discuss the upcoming Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view event this Saturday. Just some quick housekeeping in the interest of time and giving everyone opportunities to as many people as possible. We're going to ask that you kindly refrain from asking two-parted questions. We have a lot of people on the line here, a lot to talk about today, so we want to get everybody.
No follow-up.
So get started.
The best chances possible to connect with Tony. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony now for some opening thoughts, then we're going to open up the lines for your questions. Tony.
Thank you very much, Jim. Hey, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming in today. This is a little different. We normally have done these on Thursday, but I thought it would be good to cover the whole week. We have a lot of great wrestling coming this week and a lot of things happening in both AEW and ROH. It's a huge week for us. We have Dynamite tonight on TBS, Rampage Friday on TNT, and then Ring of Honor Final Battle on Saturday afternoon. It's a little bit different trying the show out in the afternoon time slot. We're excited about that.
You think?
And there were so many things to cover.
He's so positive and upbeat. Right? He's it's hard not to like him.
We've got some great footage of the semi-tractor trailer going over the side of the cliff, burning into flames below in the valley. It was great. We roasted marshmallows. We're going to bring that to you
this week. And I really thought it would be good to talk on Wednesday. And something I wanted to cover, there's been a number of issues that have come up this week, different questions. And one question that we've gotten so much that I thought I should just lead off and talk to you about it is a question about the status of William Regal in AEW and also in Ring of Honor, where he's helped us out. And I thought it would be something good to cover. It's a lot of personal stuff, and I have a ton of respect for William Regal, and that's why I thought it would be good to just talk about it here. To go back and really talk about some of these things, I would go back a few months. These last several months have been crazy, and going back to All Out, obviously there were a lot of things happened coming out of All Out, and after that, the next couple weeks ended up being a really important time for the company. We made a lot of changes on the show, and frankly, it was all hands on deck, and we had to completely overhaul a lot of things. And I was really pleased with the success we had. It ended up being one of our best periods we've ever had for TV ratings, and it was the best run of ratings we've really had all year. And it's not the first time this year we've had to make a lot of changes. For different reasons, there have been a number of times this year where things have come up out of our control. And earlier this year, around Double or Nothing and our show at the Forum, those were hugely successful events for us. But then that week, coming out of it, there was some attrition as we had a number of major injuries. And going into Forbidden Door, for example, I was so pleased with how Forbidden Door came out. It was commercially and critically one of the most successful things we've done. And the run up to it was very challenging with injuries, in particular to Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, and had to make a lot of changes.
What was he claiming he was going to address a minute ago?
William Regal. But he's talking about...
My head is starting to hurt.
Apparently, he's saying there was a lot of things happening in the business and in his personal life as this William... I mean, he's going to say this, I'm assuming, as this William Regal stuff was happening.
Maybe if he wrote these things down ahead of time, go ahead.
He's speaking from the heart, maybe, but let's go back to this.
Out again, a lot of changes. We had the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions and some great shows at that time after All Out. And shows in Buffalo and Albany, really strong events that led into AEW Grand Slam, which is maybe our most important TV franchise each year. And at that time, I felt like things were really coming together, and I was really proud how the company had all rallied leading into Grand Slam.
Beyond anything, is he now painting too rosy a picture of everything we've seen in the last few months on TV?
That's the problem. I'm not trying to blister Tony, but it's just obvious that he is very defensive with going over this in excruciating detail. Every question that he answers of a sensitive topic begins with a dissertation on everything that's happened positively for the last 6 months, whether or not it's even related. And I just wish sometimes he would get to address the meat of the matter a little more quickly. Maybe it's just me.
Let's go back to Tony.
And also going into Grand Slam, I had some personal challenges in my life and my family's life. And I was going to tell you about that today. And I don't think 99% of you would have had any idea about any of this. So going into Grand Slam, last year my dad was at Grand Slam, and I was really proud to have him at the event. He was not able to come this year, and the lead into Grand Slam was very challenging for me personally. My mother had a stroke after All Out, before Grand Slam, and my whole family, we were really obviously very, very concerned, and it was a really stressful time for my family, but also there were a lot of really challenging things happening around the company, AEW, and they needed to be addressed. And so there's just all kinds.
Let me stop it there for a second, because we've talked so much about the fallout of All Out, the backstage confrontation, the Bucks and Omega going into Punk's dressing room and the fight that broke out afterwards, the ramifications of it, the investigation, everything that's going on. Now to hear that in the middle of all that, because right after it, he was dealing with all this. What do you think?
Well, and again, Tony has managed in this situation, and as we are hearing more of the audio, it will come out, to babyface himself by talking about his mother being sick. And I'm not making fun of Tony's mother being sick, and I wish her the best. And it's not, we're not sitting here going, Tony, your sickness in the family, or whatever the fuck. It's that this is what has been happening. You can't tell me that this guy, does he ever sleep? You can see it unraveling. He's whatever jobs or positions he had with the football team and with all the other things that he was doing before the wrestling started. Then he started the wrestling, and people question, well, how can he do all this? Because he insists on being the head of creative. Who knows the only creative? I don't fucking know how that works, but he insists on being the booker. He insists on being the boss, even though he doesn't insist on being the boss when people are upset with him. He insists on doing all of this stuff. And on top of this, his mother's ill, and his wrestlers are fighting, and the ratings are dribbling away. And this is what happens when you try to do something of this size with inexperienced people or lack of people to begin with in positions. Tony Khan is trying to do the job of at least 4 or 5 experienced people with all this other shit going on. And that's, I think, what we're seeing in the product and the booking, which more and more people are starting to see doesn't make a lick of sense, and everybody's questioning. And I'm not trying to browbeat Tony because he's got illness in his family now too, for heaven's sake. But one person can't do all this shit, especially when that person had no earthly clue of what he was getting into to begin with, and apparently wouldn't listen to anybody else. And so now the thing with Regal, well, go ahead and play some more, but he's going to tie this in. But he's become a babyface as a result of this. So that's wonderful. But I don't think it's, all right, go ahead, and then we'll get into Regal when he gets into Regal.
Stuff happening. And so that's why my dad was not at Grand Slam this year. But everybody came together, and the event was tremendous. And following a great Grand Slam, my mother had been at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, and they weren't really able to figure out why she had this stroke. And that was pretty scary. And, they actually had let her go home, and they said they would, keep doing tests and stuff. And we had this strong run of ratings in AEW, and I kept plowing ahead at work. And it was at the week after Grand Slam. We had another great show, I thought, but Hurricane Ian reared its head, but we still came damn close to hitting that million number we go for every week, and stuff at home with my family. My mom was home, so that was really positive, but obviously we're all still really concerned. And then the following week, we went out to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite on TBS. And then my mom had a second stroke. And now, we've gone from incredibly worried to just panicked as a family. And so there's just so many things happening at this time. And this was right around my 40th birthday, which was probably about as low-key of a 40th birthday as you could have. I watched Monday Night Football at my parents' house with my parents. My mom was hooked up to
what channel? Tell us what channel you were watching.
My mom's surgery would go okay. And that same night, I got a phone call, and it was saying that William Regal had approached Mega and said that, and it was all very legitimate, valid stuff. Basically, he's got a son who works in another wrestling promotion, and he really wanted us at the end of the year, when we had the option to renew his contract, he was asking that we would not nothing bad. We're having a great time working together, but that this is an opportunity for him to go back and work in these really golden years of his career with his son and do things he likes to do, coaching, and he's got friends that he would like to go back and coach with. And it's a very complex situation for AEW.
Allegedly, that's what he was supposed to be doing in AEW, was helping coach, right? So I know his son is not there, but Tony basically just said that Regal said, well, I like all those people over there and they listen to me. And plus my son is there. And now that the old man that fired me is gone and one of my best friends is in charge, I'd like to go back there where I wanted to be to begin with. And with all due respect to Tony's family and anything else, yes, there's a family heartstring tugging contingent to this, but and it was probably the perfect time for William Regal to present that argument to Tony in that fashion when he's having, problems in his family, but it still boils down to Regal would have never left if Vince hadn't fired him. As soon as Triple H got back in charge, he wanted him to come back, and he wanted to come back. And yes, his son is there, and so are all the other people that he used to coach that actually listened to him. So it's a great delivery on this story, but isn't that basically still what the situation is? He had an option at the end of the year. He could have picked it up, and William Regal could be miserable being somewhere he doesn't want to be. And even if he was trying to be professional about it, that would probably still cause further issues. Or Tony can just say, well, you know what, we had you for a year, and that's, what he's done.
Why is it a 1-year deal with an option?
Probably because Regal figured exactly what's happened. He's either thinking, well, Vince is 78, and who knows how, I don't want to, tie myself up for too long, but I need a job. Paul may have said sit tight and don't fucking do anything for too long, but get you a job. So with Tony not examining all this with a clear head, because he usually doesn't, he might have thought, well, I'm getting Regal for 3 years. He's my friend. He'll stick with me. It's just, he's older, so he doesn't want to, do anything long term. There's an option after each year, whatever the case, however it was presented. Regal got a job until situation changed where he wanted to be. And, who knows if everybody in the company had said, oh, William Regal, we'd love to learn from you, or whatever, or if there'd been better management, if that comment is to be taken as something that Regal said, the maturity and management issue, whatever the case, it's still, he didn't want to leave to begin with, and now that he has a chance to go back, that's what he wants to do. And are you going to keep the guy there chained to as New Jack used to say, chained in the bowels of a slave ship? Or are you going to let him go so that he doesn't, just naturally be miserable and kind of bring everybody else down around him?
I renew the option until I can finish playing out the program I have, and then I release him as per his wishes. That's what I would do.
But here's the thing, is if the option was up at the end of the year anyway, I don't know why that they couldn't at least have run this for 8 weeks or whatever the fuck. And is okay. I don't know why it had to be, well, let's tell him off 1 week with Moxley, and then MJF can knock him out next week and we'll never see his ass again, or whatever. Go ahead. Is there more of this?
Let's go back to Tony Khan. Yes.
Because he's a huge part of what we're doing on screen, and we really value him, and there's multiple storylines that he's involved in at this point. And as we were going to Toronto that week, obviously I had a lot on my mind. And after the second stroke, they found my mom had a spot on her heart. And so and I'm probably doing a bad job with the medical explanation of it, but they said that if they could remove the spot from her heart, then that was the best chance we had to stop the strokes from happening. And through this whole thing, my sister and my dad, I mean, they were heroes in this whole thing. And my sister especially is like the hero that thinks she was there as much as she possibly could have been on my mom's side. And I went and spent as much time as I could every night in the hospital. And so it was, as we went to Toronto, my mom was going down to have that surgery. And obviously there were other things happening too in the world of wrestling that were really important. And this was the timing of the request from Regal, and I really had to think about it. And both those shows in Toronto were very successful. And then at the end of the week, my mom had this heart surgery. And when I got back, my dad and my sister had already been there at the hospital since the previous day. And that weekend, which would be, I think, the 14th, 15th, 16th, I went in. I watched Rampage in my mom's hospital room that Friday night with her as she was sleeping, and I definitely, I think I tweeted.
Good God, no wonder she has a bad heart. He's making her watch Rampage?
Oh, stop. Will you be nice?
I'm sorry, but what a thing to do. Hey, Mom, you're in a hospital with a bad heart. Let's watch my wrestling show.
He would have known what that meant. And there's a lot to think about here. And we had a Jags game that weekend against the Indianapolis Colts. And my mom's recovering from a major operation that she just had, which had gone, thankfully, really well, but it is a really challenging recovery. And so I came back from Toronto, and we're all just really grateful. My mom was making it through this operation, and she was in good condition, but there was a long road ahead. And so if I thought my mom was hooked up to a lot of machines before, I got back, and good Lord, there's just dozens of machines. And when I got back, my family was pretty exhausted, and I kind of tagged in. And then I found myself spending the nights in the hospital, and they were spending the days there. And we played the Indianapolis Colts that weekend, and I went to Indianapolis and then flew back. And then I went back to the Mayo Clinic on the Sunday night. I think that's October 16th, I want to say. And,
I'm going to just stop it. He's telling his life story. This is supposed and I feel awful about what he's going through. And trust me, no one can relate to just about everything he's gone through more than me. However, this is a wrestling media call. He was going to answer the questions that everyone's had, and everyone has them, about William Regal. And again, I feel awful about what he's going through, but this is all about him.
Well, and besides, I think we're seeing the problem is that Tony Khan is not a public speaker. He's not a spokesman. He's not a public person. He's not suited to have the spotlight on him because he doesn't make a clear, concise, cohesive statement about anything. And I know it's obviously eating him up and problematic that he's talking about all these horrible things he's gone through, but is this the venue for all of this detail? Or could it possibly be easier to get this story across if he eliminated what he had for lunch on Thursday, the 17th of September, or whatever the case? Go ahead.
Again, my dad, my sister, and my mom's best friend, they've been there a lot, and during the days, and I was trying to spend the nights there. And my mom was asleep, and I got a message from Regal, and it was asking if we could talk. And I made time to talk to him, and I went out outside the hospital, and so I'm sitting out on a park bench out in front of the Mayo Clinic on Sunday night, and we had this really long, good talk, and it was very positive. And he really had, I think, good intentions, I'd like to say, for why he wanted to go back. And it made a lot of sense to me that he would want to work with his son and be with his son. And he said to me, honestly, and it made sense, given where you're sitting right now, does it make sense to you that I would want to go back and be with my son? And at that point where I was sitting, yeah, it really did make a lot of sense to me. And frankly, the last thing I wanted to do at that moment was prevent any parent and any child, any son from being together. As I was sitting on a park bench at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, while my mom was sleeping inside.
And well, there you go.
I feel awful for this guy.
Yeah.
I really, really do. However, I mean, and I don't want to say anything bad about William Regal, but if you know this guy's going through this and you're hitting him with that shit, I don't know. That's not the coolest thing either. Maybe I'm thinking of it wrong, but I know. Yeah. Again, I can relate to Tony.
There is that element of, well, this will be the thing that will get this argument across the finish line at this particular moment. And it's not even really that rotten of William Regal to make that argument, because he probably feels some of it himself legitimately. But this is why Tony is in over his head with all of these things, because he is such a nice guy and he wants to be friends with, and he doesn't have most business people at this level yet where they've started a company and are trying to get it over whatever the fuck. They're still hungry to make money. He's not, because he doesn't need to be, because they'll never run out of their money. So, he's, can you see Vince McMahon? I know a lot of people go, well, Vince is an asshole, but Vince ran the most successful wrestling company in the world for 30 fucking however many years or whatever the fuck it was. Vince McMahon would go to the hospital and visit his mother and then fucking go cut the balls off somebody else's mother. I don't know how to even phrase that, but can you see Vince McMahon making any of these statements? Hey, I've always said business people are pricks, and the bigger the business, the bigger the prick. And Tony's obviously not a prick. He's just in over his head and swimming with sharks, or piranhas, as my old friend Howard Brody would say.
It's also a dangerous precedent to set. If Andrade said, I want to go be with my wife, does that change everything? Or has he said that and it just wasn't honored the same way William Regal wanting to be with his son and confronting Tony with that when Tony's going through a pretty harrowing experience for a child?
Well, he's 40. I know a son.
No, but a child of a parent. A child of a parent going through something.
Child of a parent. The son of a sea cook. For all you arsenic and old lace fans out there, are we done with this audio?
I don't think he's done with the William Regal story, no.
Okay.
Recovering from a major operation. And so I told him, I do think, I don't know how we're going to do it yet. I'm going to have to do a lot of thinking. It's going to require more changes. I referenced earlier, there's been a lot of that this year that we've tried to make the best of everything. And I really do believe we've been able to have great events through it all. There were a lot of changes going into Forbidden Door, but I thought it was one of the best pay-per-view shows of the year. There were a lot of changes going into Full Gear, but really I thought it was one of the best events of the year. And it was the start of a new period for AEW. And I had to think about that, but I also had to think about family. And given that's, where I was at and where he was at, it made a lot of sense that we would try to accommodate him and that request. As I was sitting there, praying that my mom was going to be able to recover from this major operation she just had that weekend. And given where I found myself and given where he was, I just thought it made sense maybe that I would not exercise that option here. So I said I would consider it and started working on changes, and it's basically another complete overhaul. And like I said, we had made major changes going into Forbidden Door. We made major changes coming out of All Out, going into Grand Slam. But these were really successful periods for us. Forbidden Door, it wasn't the smoothest run in, but it ended up being an amazing show. All Out, coming out of it, is probably the most successful period of TV we've had this year, and there were so many great shows there. With great matches in Albany and Buffalo, leading into Grand Slam, and then coming out of that, some great matches in Philly and an awesome 3-year anniversary show in DC. And I was really proud of what we did in Toronto. And then after that call with Regal, we had Title Tuesday. And from then on, we made changes to get to full gear and through full gear as strong as possible. And I thought Title Tuesday was a great show. To say we leaned into things with Regal and MJF would be an understatement, but I think that was a real life situation too. And that 20-minute promo was outstanding. It was tremendous storytelling, I think. And again, it set a table for a different direction that helped us get to where everyone wanted to be. Later that week, we had
to help us get where everyone wanted to be. That's interesting.
Which is out of here. And what did I just say this last week? It looks like they've been changing this shit every week on the fly. Apparently that's because they were changing this shit every week on the fly.
For William Regal, not for a top star or anything, no disrespect to Regal in this regard, but for a manager of a stable on the show, they're rewriting the entire main event program.
Yeah, remember
insane.
I said even after Punk was hurt or the media scrum, whichever, then they were still changing things from week to week. Was it based on these phone calls going back and forth now? Are we going to have him or are we not? Are we going to have him? How long are we going to have it? Blah, blah, blah.
Rampage live at Daly's place in Jacksonville. And I sat with Regal for over 90 minutes in my office afterwards. And this is probably the longest one-on-one in-person talk I've ever had with him. And, we talked and I told him I'll make major sacrifices to this company to do the best thing for you and your family, because this is a family-first company. And the person I'm releasing, later this month, who's still with us, I think it's fair to say, through the holiday, has been an essential part of multiple TV stories, and it's still an essential part of the TV as of tonight. And we've done a lot of things to help him create the best situation he can for his family. And for me, my mom's doing really well, and we're really grateful. And it's amazing. We just had this great Thanksgiving, and she's doing better. It seems like better and better every day. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful to my dad and especially my sister for being there for every moment of the recovery. And also I'm grateful that I was there a lot, as much as I could be. And it was probably, in a lot of ways, the most time I spent with my mom this year. And even though I spend a good amount of time with her. And where we're at, I thought we had a great pay-per-view show, and now for Lord Regal, I'm wishing him the best, and he knows I wish him the best, and we've had conversations even this week, and he's, I think he's grateful for what I did, but also I know he enjoyed his time here, and I've enjoyed the time with him, and it's hard to see him go, but it was a challenge to arrive in a place where we were able to make it compelling, and he's not gone yet. Now we're going into Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Let me say something. William Regal was going to say whatever he had to say to get out of that contract.
Yeah.
As soon as Paul Levesque was put in charge, William Regal started plotting his way to get back to WWE.
Well, now don't make him sound like Simon Bar Sinister. He wasn't plotting. He was just saying, I got to fucking get back there. Is there any doubt? Can anybody say anything else? I mean, it's commendable that Tony Khan feels that way about letting somebody go and be with their family at this time of year, blah, blah, blah. But there would have been some pitch, some reason he wanted to go back, whether his son was involved or whatever the fuck else. That was the idea that was arrived at, I'm sure. Wouldn't you think, oh, how the fuck can I pitch this Tony to let me out of this? So
I can't think of too many other things that would have done it.
It's optimum timing. Timing is everything, as Abdullah the Butcher used to say.
Let's see if he's done with this question.
I hope so.
We have to at least get through the one question.
A big week with the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And, in pro wrestling, you have people butting heads in the ring and also backstage. And it took a lot of hard work to get to where we are. In the end, like I said, Full Gear was an incredible success for this company, commercially and critically. You know, it's one of our best pay-per-view shows we've had. And this year we've had a lot of great shows. Despite challenges, we've been able to keep the company strong throughout the year. And, you know, in the end, there's a lot of happy endings here. And I'm most happy that my mom is doing better. And that whole situation probably led me to a place where I had a better understanding of the reasons why Lord Regal would want to be in a place where he could work with his son as much as he wants and be with family.
He took advantage of you.
I probably won't be able to facilitate every family reunion, but I do try to make this a family-first company, and especially in this situation.
Oh, I'm getting mad. He got taken advantage of by fucking Regal. He got hired as a favorite of Moxley and Danielson and the guys that wanted him there, and then as soon as he got there, he came there in March was his debut, someone said on TV. When was Levesque put in charge?
Well, didn't the illegal paralegal come out in April or May?
He was there a month, and he's trying to come up with a plan to get out of there. This is ridiculous. And they bent over backwards to give him an exit because he's had now 3 different exits on TV.
he's exit stage right, exit stage left. He's exiting all over the place. We can't get this fucking guy to quit leaving.
Let's see if it's a question over. Hold on.
I don't know.
That's what we've done. And, you know, there's a lot of exciting things happening in AEW now we could talk about. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Ring of Honor going into Final Battle. And I'm excited to talk about those. And now I can open it up for your questions, if that's okay.
Oh, good Lord.
All right, now he's going to open it up for questions.
Do we have any more questions? Or are we free to leave?
He's very sympathetic when talking about his personal issues, but again, he's the head of a company just airing all of his personal stuff here on a media call for a pay-per-view for Ring of Honor.
It sounds like he's talking to a psychiatrist when he's doing some, and I'm not just talking now about his mother being sick. I'm talking about he just rambles on, and there's a lot of back padding involved, and Tony doesn't seem like an egotistical person. Tony seems like a very defensive person that can't understand how that everybody doesn't think that all of his shit is great because all of his invisible fictitious fans in his E-Federation that he gets the feedback from likes all the shit that he does. But it's just the real people that criticize him, and he can't figure out why. And I think there's some element of therapy sessions going on in these diatribes. Is that the proper word? Hold on. While you determine whether there's anything else to be seen here, I'm looking up diatribe.
Well, let's see what the first question is.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. Thanks for your time on that. Thanks for your thoughts, for sure. I'm
That's his PR guy thanking him, but okay.
sure everyone really appreciates him. So we're going to start with Stuart Myrick from KTXX FM, The Horn in Austin. And we're going to follow Stuart with Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics.
All right, let's at least go through Brandon Thurston because he actually does good reporting.
All right, and by the way, diatribe, I'm saying a bitter, abusive denunciation. So maybe that's not quite... But it also can be a lecture, and I think that's what we got. But amazingly enough, diatribe is right above diazepam, which is an anti-anxiety drug. Maybe that's what I should be looking for Tony. All right, let's go to Brandon.
No, this is not Brandon. This is the guy from The Horn.
Well, fuck The Horn. Just tell me what Brandon wants to know.
I don't know what the timestamp is on that. Hold on.
Stuart, you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Tony, first of all, thanks for your time. Thoughts and prayers for your family as your mother recovers. Having dealt with that myself with my family, I can attest to the strain that it can put on you. So thoughts and prayers. And oh, by the way, welcome back to Austin.
See, now he puts every reporter in the position where they have to say that to start off the thing, because otherwise, now that it's been started, if you don't do it, you're the asshole.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Quickly, just do you have any updates on the possibility of Ring of Honor returning to television on a weekly basis?
Oh, good question.
Well, whichever platform it is, I'm really glad you asked me that. It's a very timely question with Final Battle coming up. I've got these two amazing companies, and AEW has always come first and foremost for me, yet Ring of Honor is really important, and I don't want it to take a backseat to anything. I also don't want it to always be the focus of the AEW TV. So after this week, I will really be limiting how much Ring of Honor you see on the shows. And
as soon as we get to Belt Off Jericho, we'll not see a lot of it anymore.
A good amount of Chris Jericho and Claudio's story, but a lot of the other Ring of Honor champions or the Ring of Honor matches, some of them have been on Rampage or even at times Elevation and Dark, and doing things using our other platforms like streaming YouTube and things like that. So for the future of the TV, I'll address it after Final Battle. It's a really good question, and I think let's get through a really big week, starting with Dynamite tonight on TBS, Rampage Friday on TNT, and then obviously Final Battle this weekend. And I think it's something I would like to address, and it's a good question that you asked, but I'm gonna.
But I just won't answer it.
Yeah, at this point, is a Ring of Honor pay-per-view a true Ring of Honor pay-per-view, or is it AEW in your house?
It's not a true Ring of Honor pay-per-view unless Gary Juster is lost driving around the town trying to find a Starbucks. Keep going with this thing.
Saturday, and then I can talk a little bit more about it there if it's okay. Thank you for asking and setting the table for Saturday.
Thanks, Stuart. Okay, as promised, I'm going to call on Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics, and Joel Torres from Contralona will follow Brandon. Brandon.
Hi, Tony. First, I want to extend best wishes to you and your family.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to ask you about the Rampage ratings. The rating on Friday was a new low, but it's just sort of a data point in a wider trend. I was wondering if you could talk about what you think the reason is. Has promoting Ring of Honor on Rampage played a role in that, and what can you do to improve ratings?
I definitely definitely am looking to put strong matches on Rampage. I think we'll have a big card this week. And, with the depth of the roster, I think now it's a time for me to really put all hands on deck to put the strongest shows I can on Friday. And I always try to listen to the feedback from the fans. So going forward, I'm going to try to put things on the Friday show that I think will have the best chance to bring in that audience.
Hold on one second. If he just thinks that you can just put big matches on Friday night and plug them on Wednesday night.
Strong matches is what
Strong matches and plug them on Wednesday night, and that's going to change anything when nothing on that program from week to week follows anything else. And it's the furthest thing from an episodic program. We talked about it earlier in this show, blah, blah, blah. You don't need more talent on it. You need less talent, good talent. Focus on the talent that's on it. You don't need, what did he say, big matches or strong matches or whatever. You need programs that will hook people from week to week that might build a fucking audience. Or just a standalone hour of cold matches with dipshits that we barely ever fucking see anywhere else. That ain't gonna cut it. Go ahead.
What has historically done really well, because we've had a lot of good history of shows that have done well on Friday. And, there's people that have drawn.
There was one.
Spots, and then look at the people that necessarily haven't drawn as much in those spots, and what can I do to help those people? And on the other hand, probably what can I do to put the show in the best position, utilizing people that have a history of drawing well on that show.
He's gone.
Brandon. Joe Torres from Contralona.
I just want to see if he continues to trend.
I'm going to follow Joe with a write-in question from Max Everett from Sportskeeda Wrestling. Joel.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi Tony, how are you? First of all, I lost my dad a few months ago.
See, this is what it starts.
Yeah.
Through,
See, now everyone has
I'll
to.
tell you what, though, he's inadvertently slipped this thing, because if it hadn't been for him cutting that promo and telling people his mother had been sick and getting that sympathy, everybody would be going, "You blithering dipshit." So this is one of Tony's better. It wasn't delivered well, but the message got across. And he appears to be slipping the shit for this.
Well, the message has got across, and I don't know if we need to listen to too much more of this. Again, this has just happened a little bit before as we were recording, and we can monitor and see if there's anything else worth talking about, but I think we've heard enough. And Swami's going.
Like the sign they held up in Greensboro in 1990, we have heard enough. We both, Brian and I, hope that Tony's mother is feeling much better and that his family is happy for Christmas. But this guy needs some help, and now the problem has become that he's surrounded himself, the closest people in his ear now, his little sidekick, Megan, and the EVPs and the Ocho, are either in over their heads themselves or out for themselves. And it's going to be real interesting. See whether he can keep together without being wrapped up in one of those long sleeve jackets and put in a rubber room at the Puzzle Factory.
Well, Jim, there it is. Tony Khan's comments, at least as many as we would play here at the end of the show. For anyone who's going to complain, "Oh, you played too much Tony," it's at the end of the show. It's already been a long show. It's been a very long show. So we're not going to play any songs this week.
Tony is used to speaking at length after the end of long shows.